Time to get your fix. Come on down, get your horrible gaming review. 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 Wow.
Hello, my name is Zach Rye with Old Man Gaming. Welcome back to another horrible game review. Before we get into it, of course, our usual disclaimers. Number one, I'm a house dad. I do this with as much time as I can, but my kid is in the room, so I'm sure you're going to hear her at some point. That being said, the word horrible in the title of this video does not necessarily refer to the content that I am reviewing, more or less the quality of the review itself. I do snap judgment reviews here, meaning I usually get about 5 to 10 hours with the game. I'm just trying to give you an idea of whether or not you would have fun playing it right away. In that vein, I do not do scored reviews. I don't believe in scores for video games. I believe they're one of the most subjective forms of art, and therefore you're going to get an overview of the game, then a list of the pros and cons in my point of view, as all reviews are, and then I'm going to tell you whether or not I'm going to stick with it past the purposes of this review. So today I am reviewing the weird, crazy new Battle Royale from Proletariat, Spellbreak, and you can get this for free just about anywhere. It's on Xbox, it's on PC, in the Epic Game Store, not Steam, and then of course you can get it on Switch as well. Now this game is cel-shaded. It's got a very cartoon style to it, and unlike your usual Battle Royales, which revolve around guns, this one does not. This is you are playing a mage. It usually populates anywhere between 40 and 50 people. And then basically you have two different gauntlets that you can have. You get to go in with one right off the bat, and then the other one has to be looted. The gauntlets, there are 6 to choose from. There's a stone-based one, a toxic-based one, a fire, an ice, a lightning, a wind, and then an ice one. So basically what happens in this is each one of the gauntlets gives you 2 spells. One is a primary use, one that uses a smaller amount of magic. The other one is a big one with a cooldown. And then what's really interesting is putting these 2 gauntlets together and these abilities together. You get all sorts of crazy combos and counters. That really is where the bread and butter of the coolness of this game comes in. It's also very vertical. Your characters right off the bat can kind of levitate up into the air by holding A. Of course, it's not unlimited. You can also loot a rune, which is some sort of special power, usually in the vein of defense, such as a very fast dash or invisibility. Another one shows you the location of all the enemies in a certain range. In addition to that, you have 3 stats, mind, body, and spirit, which you can find scrolls to upgrade those powers, and then you unlock perks that go into those spots as you play. You also have a boot thing that you can loot, which gives you extra running speed. You have an amulet, which gives you more mana to use, and then you have a belt, which actually gives you armor. But that's not where the intricacies stop in this game. In addition to all this, depending on which gauntlet you start with is your class for that game. That class has 4 different perks that you unlock as you proceed through the game and level up. Leveling up is everything from making it inside the safe zone to taking out enemies. And that makes things really interesting because then the combos get real deep, such as the Toxicologist character, which I preferred to play the most, gets a perk at level 2, I believe, where if he uses the large toxic cloud power, but he runs through his own toxic cloud, he becomes invisible. In addition to that, he unlocks a perk later that is plus 75% damage to any of your other toxic attacks that you deal while you're invisible. So it creates this interesting combo dynamic. You couple that with the fact that the secondary gauntlet that you have on can also make crazy powers, such as if you shoot the toxic cloud, it'll sit there and do kind of like damage over time to an affected area. However, if you shoot that cloud with fire, it immediately goes nuclear, wiping out the damage over time, but dealing tons of damage right away. Other powers like that continue, such as the wind has a large tornado power that you can drop a tornado somewhere and it pulls mages into it whenever they try and fly. More interesting, though, you can shoot your toxic into that, and then suddenly the wind will also do damage over time. You can also shoot fire into it, which sets your opponents on fire, or lightning, which creates this tempest of storm, which shoots lightning into people, which also stuns them. This continues with the third partying becomes very interesting in this kind of a battle royale because you can combo off other people's attacks. So if your opponent drops a toxic cloud on an opponent, you can also shoot that toxic cloud with your frozen ice thing to solidify it. So you have these crazy, insane, almost Dragon Ball Z-esque fights with your opponents, which makes things just very, very, very interesting. In a genre that's just oversaturated right now, this is a truly unique idea, and for that, we got to give them credit before we even get to pros. You will not. I assure you, if you play this, you have not played a battle royale like this. All right, so that brings us to the pros and cons. My first pro is its uniqueness. Again, I got to hammer it home. You will not play a battle royale like this anywhere else. It's just very unique and interesting. The idea behind the strategy of the gauntlets is different and new and very cool. My next pro is the way this does their drops. Now, in a lot of ways, it's very similar to most battle royales. And if you've played a battle royale, most battle royales drop you out of some sort of aircraft thing, and you have to parachute to a place, and it drops everybody out of the same aircraft thing. With this, it shows you a map, and it gives you all the places that your mage could spawn into in the air above. Once you're spawned, you can then direct the mage anywhere you need to go, and you have a long amount of time before you hit the ground, so you can actually make a lot of in-air adjustments. With that being said, I enjoy that kind of versatility. It also tells you if this portal is being used by somebody else, so you know if you're hot dropping or not to a degree. My next pro is the smoothness at which this game works. Okay, so I know it's got cartoony graphics. It's very cell shaded, and in that way, it's very colorful. But I have rarely played battle royales right out the gate that are as smooth as this. And of course, I know this has been around for a while in beta, so I'm sure they've been fixing things, but this is just like butter. I have not been booted. I have not experienced any lag. I haven't experienced any sort of like hiccuping, and I am including my time on Switch. I have played at least half my time on Switch. So just want to throw out there that it's that smooth on Switch. I'm not saying you're not going to experience any problems, but I personally have not noticed any problems whatsoever, and that's really nice to not be killed via lag or something along those lines. My next pro is the time to kill is very large, and coupled with the abilities and the way that they've put this game together, I like the fact that this game is a little bit more leaning into outsmarting and overpowering your opponent than just really good Twitch-based reflexes. Not saying there's anything wrong with Twitch-based reflexes or Twitch-based gaming or shooters. They're great. But like for me, a lot of times I like to think about things, and in the process of me thinking, a guy who's just faster and more instinctively better at shooting kills me. With this, there's nothing like that. You always have a second to think, even when you're getting damaged. You can always make a move somewhere. And that's really nice. I mean, don't get me wrong. I've been overwhelmed by people, and it's been rough. But I like the idea of having that time to be able to think to go into my invisibility and where to move to position to fight the opponent. And it's really nice to do that. It's a very There's plenty of Twitch-based gaming in there, but there's a lot of chess match in this. What gauntlets am I using? How can I use them to defeat my opponent's gauntlets? What is he using? What ruins are we using? Like, everything. Like, where you're just kind of trying to one-up each other, and I really enjoy that. All right, so let's move into the negative. Let's move into the cons. So first of all, my biggest con here is they kind of phantom play you into thinking you're good right off the bat. Hear me out. When you first go into this game, it asks you if you want to play a tutorial. I highly recommend you do that. Once you've played the tutorial and you go into a game, the first game you go into is always all bots, period. Everybody you will take on is a bot. I did not realize that. I just didn't. And it made me feel like I was way better at this game than I was. I didn't realize till I was getting down to that final circle when I was like, I've beaten these guys real easy. And then it kind of dawned on me. Somebody else experienced that as well. I feel like they're doing something with their matchmaking here where as you progress, you get tougher and tougher matchmaking, which is good. I'm not against that, but they don't really say that or advertise it. So, the first few games, I was in top 5 every time. And now I'm having a hard time getting into the top 15. So it's tricky because you think you're good at it and you're not. And that kind of, I don't know, it forced me to like trial by fire instead of like practice, get better, that sort of thing. My next con is kind of a weird one because I don't know that it's a con. I don't know that other people would think it's a con. But the game is really weird in the fact that it's played best in duos. So I've been fortunate enough to play in solos quite a bit, but I've also been fortunate enough to play about an hour in squads and a few hours in duels. And those are the ways you could play. Squads, which are 3s, duos, which are doubles, you and a friend, and then solo, which is just you by yourself. There's something about the squads that makes it too chaotic. Everybody being in 3s means that if there's any third party whatsoever, there's at least 9 people in the fight, and it just gets too much. With your normal shooters, normal running gunners, there's not a ton of area effect attacks going off. You're shooting from one point to another, shooting from another point to another. With this, you have this weird kind of situation where like everybody's hurling their area of effect attacks and their big attacks, and it gets really quickly hard to disseminate who's your friend and who's your enemy, even with their names above their head. On top of that, half the time you're going to end up in a panic, desperate, just throwing stuff around. Plus, because of the nature of the time to kills and everything, it's very hard to evenly distribute damage between 2 different parties. So it's very hard to like fight more than one person. So you get into this weird chaos situation where it's almost feels like luck of the draw. And I didn't care for that. Whereas then you go to solos and it kind of takes an opposite effect. There isn't chaos, but there's not a ton of action all the time. Because there's not a ton of people in it and everybody's kind of doing their own thing. So you get these like huge strings of just nothing going on. And when fights do happen, a lot of times there are a few certain runes and combinations that are just better than other ones, and those tend to make the meat of difference. Like, example, in solos, there's a rune called the wolf rune, which you howl and you can see within a certain amount of range all your opponents are highlighted even if they're behind stuff, which is really nice. You would think this is a really great thing to have. However, if you come up with an opponent who has teleportation, which literally means they can teleport to anywhere they can see, or invisibility, they can escape you even if you have the ambush on them relatively easily, whereas they have the mobility to position themselves always above you or in a better shot. And once a character teleports once, you have no idea where they went. So that can be frustrating. I mean, every Battle Royale has that where, you get tapped by the guy in a bush, 4 miles away after running for 40 minutes. But this one is really weird in that way that like certain runes, if you don't have that defensive rune, it's almost useless to know where people are. The other thing just want to point it out that Bad Wolf Ruin does not work for all of the people on your team, which I think is kind of a downside of that. I know that's very specific for a game con, but it's very irritating. So then you have the doubles, which are just kind of the perfect thing. It's never too much chaos. Like sometimes you get into those battles where there's 4 teams and you're ending up with 8 people, but that's still less than 3 teams in the other one. Usually you're taking on 2 other people or 2 groups of 2 other people, and it's never too chaotic where I can't tell where my partner is and he can't help me. The other thing is, too, you're both going to have ruins, so you'll be able to compensate for those defensive tweaks that other people make. I don't know what it is about this game, but just doubles is the best way to play, in my opinion. Not that you won't have fun with solos or squads. I'm just saying doubles is probably the most fun. All right, so that brings me to whether or not I'm going to stick with it. And I would have to say emphatically yes, and it is so nice to be doing a positive review for a change. I've had so many stinkers lately. This is a really fun, really unique take on the Battle Royale. It's right up my alley. I very much enjoy it. And it's just got the right sauce, in my opinion, for a great game down the road. And I think if they continue to add to this, they continue to make it better, it's going to just get better as long as the player base stays around. I mean, they have a great system for advancement too, a great system for cosmetic upgrades and whatnot. Like it all just comes from play, and it just feels very smooth and tight right off the bat, and I enjoy it. So I will be playing more of it. But that's it. That's the review. I hope this helped you guys out. I hope if you were on the fence, you know to try it, and it's free. Heck, who cares, right? Of course, you can check out everything our channel has to offer. Please contact us on Facebook at OldManGamingDH, on Twitter at OldManGaming9. You can join our Discord. The link is in the description below. You can influence this and all of our shows from there. As usual, people, click that like, that subscribe, turn the bell on. Please tell your friends, tell your family if you think they'd like it, because we want to grow our subscriber count. And then if you keep listening and watching, we'll keep making them. See you guys next week.